Hi students, welcome to Scholar IAS. This is Smarika Azad and I am taking your EPFO exam classes for labor law. We started discussing about industrial relations and we have had in the earlier class discussed about the introduction part of industrial relations, where we have discussed that why industrial relations are important, what are industrial relations, what does industrial relation means. We have discussed about all these things all together. Despite that, I discussed about what is EPFO exam, where you have to focus yourself. is it a is it a tough exam or an easy exam? I also discussed about how to go about this exam and how to tackle yourself and prepare for this exam, and what are the stages of exam. Okay, now in this particular lecture we are going to discuss about definitions. I told you that we are discussing about the meaning of industrial relations in that particular lecture. Now we are in this particular lecture we are going to discuss about definitions and what all these definitions conclude uh, about industrial relation, so that we can have a clearer picture about what is industrial relation actually means. Okay, so in this particular lecture we are going to discuss different authors and how they have given different definitions about industrial relations, and then we are going to discuss about the definition of ILO, that is International Labor Organization, and then we will discuss about what all these definitions actually conclude for us, what are the basic crux of all the definitions altogether. Okay, let's start. So, according to Beatle and others, industrial relation is that part of management which is concerned with the manpower of the enterprise, whether machine operator, skilled worker, or manager. So basically, Beatle and others have said that industrial relation is the part of management which is concerned with the manpower of enterprise, whether machine operator, skilled worker, or manager. So basically, he is not making any differentiation between the manpower of enterprise. For him, machine operator, skilled worker, and manager is part of management, and this part of management is called manpower. Okay, for an enterprise, this manpower actually is important. Okay, according to his definition. Manpower of enterprise can thus be classified as management and workers or employers and employees, and industrial relations can thus be treated as relation between employer and the workman. So this is the basic crux of the uh, this of the definition given by the Beatle and others. Okay, so basically they are trying, students, we have to understand the crux of the definitions in these words. Okay, for Beatle, the crux is that manpower of the enterprise is management, is part of management, and anybody who is working for this part of management will comprise of manpower, be it machine operator, if he is a skilled worker, then also, or if he is a manager himself, he is also part of manpower. And it can be simply classified as management and relationship between management and workers, or employers and employees, or this industrial relation can be treated as relation between these people. Okay, now moving on to V Agnihotri. According to him, the term industrial relation explains the relationship between employees and management which stem directly or indirectly from union employer relationship. So basically, mm, uh, according to him, the relationship between employees and the management is the stem to any industrial relation, and it can be, you can say it is directly or indirectly related with the union and employer relationship also. Union means labor unions, or that employees of a particular industry form together. So these unions and the employer relationship is the basic uh, criteria in any industrial relations. Okay, now moving on to um, VB Singh's definition. He says that industrial relations are integral aspect of social relations arising out of employer-employee interaction in modern industries, which are regulated by the state in varying degrees in conjunction and organized social forces and influenced by prevailing institutions. Uh, Students, I know that definitions are very much important and they are very much boring as well. Okay, I am trying to make it somewhat interesting, but you have to understand that these definitions can form part of any question in the multiple objective part of the paper, and these are very important from that point of view. So, whenever we are talking about industrial relations, when we are talking about different definitions from different authors, you have to understand that these are the crux. Okay, if we talk about Bethel says that manpower of any enterprise is the part of management. This is what Bethel says. Then we talk about V. Agnihotri. He says that relationship between employee and employer, and which is directly or indirectly related with the union and employee. Okay, so these are certain things. These are certain aspects that everyone has. At least these two authors till now has come in this definition for industrial relation. Now we are talking about definition of VB Singh. So students, he is saying that the this particular relation is an integral aspect of social relations. Okay, according to him, industrial relations are integral aspect of social relations which arise out of employer and employee interaction in modern industries, which are regulated by the state in varying degrees. Like if they make laws, they are having certain kind of checks and balances in society for checking that what employer is doing with the employee. Then in conjunction with organized social forces like unions. Okay, then influenced by prevailing institutions, so like Ministry of Labor and Employment. So basically, according to VB Singh, industrial relation is integral aspect of social relations, and it arise out of, first thing, employer employee interaction in modern industries. Second, by state when they form laws for these interactions and communications that happen in particular industry. Then thirdly, uh, when this particular conjunction is organized and managed by social forces from the outside, then the prevailing institutes like government institutes and other institutes that give certain kind of ailments to employee or employer in certain ways are does form industrial relations. So what all it involves? So this involves a study of the state, the legal system, workers and employees organization on the institutional level. Okay, so the study of the state should be there for legal system, their involvement in organization at institutional level, and that of pattern of industrial organization, including management, capital structure, including technology, compensation of labor force and force of market on the economic level. So basically state has to make sure that whatever compensation an employee is getting out of any work which he is doing is also should be uh, basically fair and justifiable, and state has to take this in note. For example, one doctor is there who is operating one heart patient, and he is charging around 50,000, and there is another doctor who is working in the same hospital, and he is charging 1 lakh rupees. So this kind of thing, this is just an example, this kind of thing is not allowed under uh, involve when we talk about legal system or about law of industrial relations. The compensation should be fair. Okay, so one cannot be paid less or one cannot be paid high. They should be paid according to their skills and what they do in a particular organization. Okay, thus it covers all types of relations arising out of employer-employee interaction in the industry, which are influenced by the power of the state and other social and economic institutions. So students, basically, this if you ask me, this definition is very wholesome definition which talks about all the relations, all the social relations that persist in a society between employer employee, at the economic level, at the social level, at the state level, at the political level. This particular definition involves everything, and it talks about every aspect of industrial relation and what all it offers. It also talks about that also. So it covers all types of relations arising out of employer and employee interaction in the industry, and which is influenced by the power of state, social, and economic institutions. Okay. Now moving on to Ordway, Ted, and Henry Metcalfe. So Ordway, Ted, and Henry Metcalfe together gave a definition of industrial relation, which is industrial relation is the composite result of attitudes and approaches of employers and employees towards each other with regard to planning, supervision, direction, coordination of the activities of the organization with a minimum human efforts and frictions with an animating spirit of cooperation with proper regard for the genuine well-being of all the members of that organization. So basically, according to Ordway, Ted, and Henry Metcalfe, industrial relation is a composite result of the attitudes and approaches of employers and employees. Okay, and what how they perform things towards each other, and how they perform and maintain their relations towards each other. What are their attitudes and what are their approaches towards each other? This is what which forms industrial relation in a society. Okay, now they go forward and they tell that what these composite results and attitudes and approaches should should be there with regards to. So with regards to, it should be it should be managed with planning, supervision, direction, and coordination of the activities in an organization between employers and employees with minimum human efforts. Basically, it means that minimum human effort means that a lot of people are not there to manage this, but it is so flowing that people should understand between them that what is required from the employer, what quality is being expected by the employer, and employee understand everything, and he tries to produce that particular thing in that particular manner. Then frictions with an animating spirit of cooperation with proper regard for the genuine well-being of all members of that organization. So basically, the spirit of cooperation should be there in an organization, and for proper functioning of a particular organization, it is very important that the genuine feel and genuine need of well-being of all the members of an organization should be there between the management. But it should be there in employees also, and also in the employer also. So for example, uh, uh, a lot of industries offer insurance, health insurance, and life covers to their employees, so that their well-being also can be uh, assured. Okay, so this is also one definition you can say is very much wholesome when we talk about industrial relations, because it talks about attitudes, approaches, how these attitudes and approaches should be there in an organization. It should be planned, it should be supervised, it should be in a proper direction, it should be coordinated, and it should be with it, and all this should be done with minimum human efforts. It should be flowing between hierarchies. Then this particular uh, amalgamation of people together should be this friction should be with spirit of cooperation, and then there should be mutual understanding, and there should be this genuine gesture where well-being of all the members of an organization can be ensured. So this is there. Okay. Now, moving on to T.N. Kapoor's definition. So, what T.N. Kapoor talks about, the term industrial relations should be understood in the sense of labor management relations, as it percolates into a wider set of relationship touching extensively all aspects of labor, such as union policies, personnel policies, practices including wages, welfare, social security, service conditions, supervision and communication, collective bargaining, etc., attitudes of parties, and governmental action on labor matter. So basically, he talks about labor and management relations. Okay, so basically, what he is trying to give here is that uh, when we talk about when we talk about labor and management relations, this relationship should touch exclusively and extensively all aspects of labor, which is their policies, whatever union they are having, what are their policies are. If we are having employees, personnel means employees. If we are having employees, how what are the policies that are there, existing policies that are there to regulate these personnel. Then what are the practices in an organization in for maintaining wages, welfare of a person, their social security when they are working with you. Then what are their service conditions? Uh, 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 they are not being asked unnecessary to work hard or work extra, and they are not getting paid for it. Then what are the supervisional qualities that a person is having in an organization, how they are supervising certain set of people. What is the communication way that is done in an organization, how they are communicating with each other, that is also there. Then how they are collectively bargaining about their welfares, wages, or maybe say for some kind of benefit that they want from their organization, and how they are doing that. This is all comes under the relationship of labor management relations. And also it also gives immense weightage to attitudes of parties, and how government is taking actions on labor matter. So basically, T.N. Kapoor is also talking about different things, which is union policies, personnel policies, practices including wages, welfare, social security, and he also talks about service conditions. Now he goes forward in the earlier definitions, social security, service conditions, and supervisions and communication. Somewhat communication is being talked about in the other definitions, but if we talk about social security, service conditions, supervision, so these are certain things that are talked about here in this definition of T.N. Kapoor. And in the earlier definition of Ted and Henry, we talked about attitudes and approaches. he also TN Kapoor is also talking about attitudes, but he goes one step forward and he talks about governmental action on labor matters, like whatever there are differences that are arising in labor, or there are certain points that labor is asking from the government or from their organizations, how they are reacting to it. That is there. Then Dale, now talking about another definition which is given by Dale Yoder. What he says is that industrial relation is a whole field of relationship that exists because of the necessary collaboration of men and women in the employment process in industry. So basically, he says that industrial relation is a whole field of relationship that exists because of necessary collaboration of men and women in the employment process in industry. So it is a very small definition. I will say it is a very constructive and very composite kind of definition. In this definition, he is saying that entire relationship that exists in field between men and women and their collaboration, which is very necessary for any employment process in an industry, is what is called industrial relations. Okay, so if we talk about definitive definitions, I would recommend T.N. Kapoor's definition because he talks about all the aspects of labor management and relations. Then we've had Ted and Henry's definition, which is also very comprehensive definition. Then V.B. Singh's definition was very much understandable, and but when we talk about T.N. Kapoor's definition, he goes one step forward and tries to include service conditions and governmental actions in his definition. Now, moving forward to International Labour Organization's definition. Now, what ILO says is that industrial relations deal with either the relationship between the state and employer and worker organization, or the relationship between occupational organizations themselves. So, basically, when we talk about industrial relations, relationship between state and employers and workers organization is there, or they all are dealing with occupational organization themselves. So there are they have made two distinction between relationship that are there in an industry. One is state employer and worker relation. Basically, what a state is doing, then what is an employer is doing, and how worker is getting managed. This is three-way relationship that ILO talks about. Then they talks about relations that are there in occupational organizations. Occupational organizations mean that, for say, there is an organization which is maintaining all the doctors. Okay, then there is organization which is maintaining all the lawyers. So basically, any organization which is associated with certain kind of occupation comes under occupational organization, and the way they deal is different with somewhat what industrially people are getting dealt with. Okay, basically, if we talk about a factory worker, then the dealing of a factory worker is somewhat different from a dealing of a doctor. So this is what they are talking about here. Okay. Now, based on the above definitions that we have had read so far, let's conclude the entire understanding of definitions of industrial relations. So, what it says, first thing, industrial relations are the relations which are the outcome of employment relationship in an industrial enterprise. So, one thing which is being established here, that there has to be an employment relationship, there has to be an employee, then there has to be an employer, and then there are other certain relationships that exist. But for having industrial enterprise to work in a certain way, the basic understanding of industrial relation is that there should be a relation which is outcome of employment relationship, which is there should be an employer and an employee. Okay, it is thus employer employee relationship in an industry. Okay. Then industrial relation is the relation in the industry created by the diverse and complex attitudes and approaches of both management and workers in connection with the management of the industry. Okay, so industrial relation is the relation in the industry created by the diverse and complex attitudes and approaches. Remember, uh, Ted and Henry's definition, they talk about attitudes and approaches of both management and worker. Okay, so industrial relation is relationship where we talk about diverse and complex attitudes and approaches of two people, which is management and workers in connection with the management of the industry. Okay, it is very important because if the attitude is for somewhat adamant towards each other, industry will not work. So there has to be certain kind of understanding between both of them. If there is certain kind of a misunderstanding between these people, there will be problems that will be there. Okay, attitude refers to the mental state of a person. Approach can be external expression of such an attitude. Attitude refers to the mental state of a person. Approach can be external expression of such an attitude. Okay, so basically, what is mental state of a person? The attitude is that only. Approach can be external expression. That is how I am treating certain kind of set of workers. Okay, this can be an approach. But when we talk about attitude, that is a mental state. Uh, I can be very generous towards you because you are working so much for me, but if I become adamant towards you, then you wouldn't like to work for me. So basically, this differentiation between attitude and approach is very important. Okay. Then moving on to attitudes must be inferred from tone of verbal expressions, perhaps from individuals' overt behavior. For example, do my work is certain kind of tone which might lead to misunderstanding. Do my work, please, can be inferred in a very soft way. So, how you talk with your worker is also going to uh, affect your relation with that person and also the industrial relations. Attitude is the mental state of individual which prepares him to take a particular external approach or make him behave in a particular manner. Okay, so basically, your attitude will decide your approach toward a worker. Okay, these attitude and approach is interlinked with each other. If your attitude is soft, your approach will be soft. If your attitude is hard, your approach will be hard. So this is there. This relationship emphasis on the process of accommodation whereby both the parties develop skills and methods of adjusting to and cooperating with each other. So this relationship emphasis on the process of accommodation. There should be process of accommodation, accommodating each other, whereby both the parties develop skills, methods of adjusting with each other, and cooperating with each other. Okay. Then industrial relation is not a simple relationship between the two parties, but is a set of functional interdependence involving a number of factors, say historical, economical, social, psychological, demographical, technological, occupational, legal, and others, etc. So there are certain interdependent elements that are there, which have which are connoted as factors over here. So it maintains this particular simple relationship, not so simple, but still a simple relationship. uh, and what was there in history, how economics is getting affected, social, economically, social and psychological, demographical, and technological, occupational, and what are the legalities that are involved, all these things. Then every industrial relation creates a complex of rules and regulations to govern the workplace. So there are certain kind of complexes that govern a certain kind of place. The work community with the main purpose of maintaining harmonious relation between management and the workmen by solving their problems through process of collective bargaining. So when unions come forward with certain kind of demands, then there should be certain kind of collective bargaining where both the parties land up in a situation where they both can say that we both win. The government state also regulates the industrial relations in the country. It evolves, influences, and shape industrial relations through laws, rules, agreements, awards of the court, emphasis on the usages, customs, strategies, implementation of its policies, and interference through executive and judiciary machinery. So basically, there is particular kind of government and state uh, relationship with industries also and with the workers also, where they should come up with laws and rules and other aspects related to laws itself, where they can talk about agreements and how compensation is going to be given in certain kind of way, and emphasis on the usages, customs, traditions. Then there should be policies, uh, interference of executive like SDMs or people who are of authoritative nature, and also judicial machinery. Okay, so government plays its role by making laws for industries in a country. And industrial relations may thus be defined as the relations and interactions in the industry, particularly between the labor and management, as a result of their composite attitudes and approaches in regard to the management of the affairs of the industry. So basically, if you want to, after listening and reading about so many definitions, you want to come to one conclusion. That one conclusion is that there, the industrial relation means that relation and interaction between industries where particularly labor and management are going to work in a composite attitude and approaches in regard to management of a particular industry, so that they can work towards the betterment of the management and the industry itself, and betterment for the workers also, so that it can be managed in certain way that it gets beneficial for the workers, industry, as well as for the economy of a particular country. So this is what industrial relation is all about. Okay, so in this particular video, we have discussed about how different definitions are there and what they are talking about. We have dismantled all the definitions that are there given by different authors, how they talk about, how the first definition talks about particular thing, then what other definitions are about. Certain definitions are very conclusive and certain definitions are very definitive about certain things. If we talk about two definitions that are very, you can say, very nicely explain what is industrial relations are. One is Ted and Metcalfe's, and the other one is T and Kapoor's, which goes forward and talks about social securities and governmental action also. So basically, industrial relations talks about every aspect, not only from the point of view of management, but also from the point of view of union, labor, and also from the point of view of state. Okay, so there are three people who are included in this particular relation. One is your employer, second is your employee, third is your state, which is making laws, policies, agreements, and other things, rules and regulations for maintaining these management and management and labor's relations. So industrial relations are basically these kind. This particular thing is, which is called industrial relations. How the attitudes and approaches are there between two people, and how their attitudes and approaches can be managed by the government also, that how their disputes can be resolved, how the compensation can be given, how awards can be given. So these are certain things that industrial relation is happening having. So for this particular video, this is it from my side. Keep watching Scholar IAS. Please log into scholarias.com for more videos and lectures like this. All the best.